And now we do cover 2. Like the last 2 videos, we're going to go over how to attack a specific coverage shell with only hot routes. And again, we're going to base out of 4 verticals in single back wide trips, but many of these concepts will carry over easily to most spread formations in the game, especially other trips formations. The idea is to provide you with a baseline scheme that allow you to attack the defenses with any formation. This is especially useful for draft champs where you don't get to pick your playbook, but these concepts are great even when you can bake them into your own scheme. And so when your opponent comes out in cover 2, but you're set up for something else, you can quickly check in some of these concepts for easy gains. I won't go over the dollar cover 2 blitz meta stuff in this video, although many of the concepts translate directly, it's best saved for another video entirely. So let's get started with regular nickel cover 2 and 4 verticals at a single back wide trips. So right away, if you don't necessarily need to pass, like if it's not 3rd and long or 4th and long or right at the end of the game, if you see a cover 2, so you know the 2 high safeties and you know likely the cornerbacks are going to be over here 5 yards off of the wide receivers on the wide side here, I would just go ahead and run the ball, especially if you're coming up in single back where you have the option to run the halfback dive, which in my opinion is a much better run play than say an inside zone out of a shotgun trips. The reason why it's going to be great is that you really only have these, you know, in this case 6 defenders in the box. These safeties, you're not going to get any sort of run support from them. The cornerbacks over here, you're not going to get really any run support because they're too far away from the ball. Same with this guy, he's kind of spread out. So you really have a hat on a hat. And then with the halfback dive, it's such a quick handoff and blocking so good, assuming you don't, you know, sprint with the ball right away. If you kind of just wait for your holes to develop and go through, you should have absolutely no problem. And again, on top of that, if you're coming up against somebody, most people are going to put this guy in a deep 3rd, which means that you have 1 fewer run defender in the box because he's immediately going to bail to his middle deep 3rd. So you really only have 5 run fitters against your 6 potential blockers here. So if you're seeing cover 2 and if you don't necessarily need to pass, you know, just run that halfback dive. It's really a simple thing. So I would always, if you can, keep one of those good run plays in your audibles. So when that happens just like this, you're going to get at least 10 easy yards from that halfback dive. And you can run that over and over again, even if they're, you know, keep that guy in a mid-read, or even if he's blitzing, you're still going to have some nice run lanes to go right up the middle. So if you're getting 10 yards a pop, or, you know, potentially breaking that off or even further, why, you know, stray away from that? That being said, there are some nice ways that we can get big chunk yards against cover 2. And if we're seeing this, you know, we might as well take a shot sometimes. So one of the main things I've always liked to do, and I've said it, you know, I've shown it many times in this channel, is to hit the hole between the cornerback and the safety down the sideline there. So in this case, again, just like the other videos, we're coming up and we're setting these 3 wide receivers, this trip side of the formation, to the field so we can have as much room as possible. In this case, we are going to be trying to round the cornerback to the outside. We want to get that outside release. And then once he releases past the cornerback, we're going to throw outside pass lead, catch it up the sideline there where the safety won't have enough time to come and cover. So in this specific 4 verticals, it has this really nice forced outside release fade. And so that's going to do a much better job of rounding that corner. If you don't, there are ways that we can get a similar effect. So I'll just show you in this case. So you see he'll go right past the guy. I go outside pass lead. You know, in years past, you could rack catch that, but it's still a decent gain. Now, if you're coming up in 4 verticals that doesn't have that forced outside release, you can hot route him to a fade. Okay, so, you know, circle, triangle, circle in this case, and then up on the right streak, not the streak route, because that'll give you something a little bit different, and we'll go into that. So I'll show you here. It takes him a little bit longer to get that outside release, and we have to throw that kind of late, and it's a bit of a tighter throw. You can still squeeze it in though. Now I'll show you if we use a regular streak on the strong side number 1 over there, he won't be able to get that outside release. He's going to get pushed to the inside, and then we won't have any room to catch that down the sideline. I mean, if you have Mike Evans, you can still maybe egg catch that, but that's not something to rely on. Now, again, if you don't have that outside release fade, what's better than the hot route fade and better than the streak fade is just a comeback route. So if your wide receiver, and I've talked about this earlier on in the year, if he beats those deep route running and release thresholds, I think for all Madden, they're kind of like 85, 86 range. All pro, they're kind of around the 90, you know, 90, 89, 91 type of range. By now, most of the good wide receivers in Ultimate Team should have that, so you really shouldn't have an issue finding these wide receivers. So he's going to get that similar release as that nice outside release fade, but you just have to throw it before he does his comeback. So just like that, and actually, in that case, I rack caught that, but actually I think it works even better than that outside release fade. I think he beats his man a little bit quicker, and we can just throw that. In some cases, we can rack catch that, maybe turn that safety. But you can see it's just easy yardage. Again, as long as he beats those thresholds, you should be golden. And then of course, if they're running hard flats, it's just going to be much easier. So you can run any sort of vertical, just right up the field there, toe tap that. The one thing you'll want to watch out for is if they are using soft squats here. So in a 3-by-1 formation, that soft squat essentially plays like a cloud, but he doesn't jam the wide receiver, so you don't really get a chance to get that outside release. And he's just going to sync with him all the way up the field. So just like this, and you can't really fit that in. I mean, you can if you're coming up against a CPU, but probably not a user. If you're running this out of 2x2, you can simply hot route that slot wide receiver to a simple out route. So the corner in a soft squat is going to jump that, and you'll be able to hit the fade up the sideline and get a nice big chunk. He won't do that in 3x1 like in this case, but you will have a lot of room underneath to hit that out route. So just like this, cornerback's going to sink, and you'll get easy 10 yards that way. So you really just have to watch the technique of the cornerback. If he's sinking, you can hit him underneath. If he's jamming the wide receiver, you should be able to hit him with that outside release and up deep down the sideline. Okay, so those are, that's one big way that we can attack cover 2 is, again, between that corner and the safety. The other one is well known. It's right split in the middle between the safeties. If you're coming up in a 3x1 formation, this middle read really gets, caught in no man's land. He doesn't really cover well. Again, most people are going to put that deep third in there, so he can cover that a little bit better. But it's something you can watch for, especially if you're running the halfback dive. You can kind of look at the technique of that middle linebacker. If he's immediately bailing, you know that your opponent's likely putting that kind of deep third. If he's fitting the run, he's going to be in a middle read. So you can potentially base your reads off of your halfback dive in terms of what you want to do in the passing game. Or, if they're coming up, if your opponent is maybe using that himself, maybe you can hit him with a play action. If he's putting him on a blitz there, and so you have 2 vertical hooks rather than, the 3 hooks in the middle, you can hit him there as well. So what we're going to do is, just very stock cover 2. We're assuming the user is on one of these guys, likely this guy over here, the outside linebacker. This guy's going to drop to the middle third, but he's going to get borked out because just the rules for him in 1x3 isn't really great. And what we'll do, we'll just send the tight end right up the middle. We'll just get the number 2 guy kind of out of the way. So he's going to go right up the middle, wait for him to clear the mid read, inside pass lead, potentially rack catch that and get a touchdown. But if you notice your opponent putting that middle linebacker on that deep third there, what I would do is put this guy on just a hook, put the tight end on a hook. So what that'll allow you to do, the user defender will either have to cover him, meaning that he's totally taken out of the play. He won't have a chance to make a play on any of the other wide receivers. Or if he goes out to say do something over here, and which we'll get into how we can get the other guys active, the tight end's going to be wide open in the middle there. So it's going to be a nice check down option for you. So just like this, we'll go ahead and run that. And he's just going to be in this nice soft spot you can hit, over and over again. You can also hit the deep middle with the number 2 wide receiver, Perriman over here. It just takes a little bit longer for him to get open. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. What I would do is if this guy's potentially blitzing, or if they're base aligning, doing something silly there, number 2 is going to get a free release. And in that case, that's when I would throw it to him. So just like this. Rack catch that, and actually the mic played that, the middle read played that pretty well, but he's usually just gonna be too slow to keep up. So already we're starting to hit cover 2 with these deep bombs, whether down the sideline or right up the middle. So of course, if something breaks down there, like we have the mic dropping deep unexpectedly, or if we see a soft squat unexpectedly, we do want to have some nice check down options. And there are a lot of nice check down options because cover 2 is really a safe coverage. You have the 2 deep safeties, and then you have all the 5 zones underneath that are really syncing with the receivers to cover deep and then rally short. But if they're gonna give us the underneath, we can go ahead and take it. So in this case, again, 4 verticals. If they don't have a spy on the field, you can just put the halfback on a little curl route here, and he's gonna, you know, be wide open right here all the time. And then if you have some abilities, make 1 or 2 guys miss, that can be a really good option for you. Or if they do have a spy on the field that's kind of muddying up that curl, again, you know, we always have the option of motioning out the running back here. We can put him on a little hitch right here. Of course, this isn't going to be an initial read. It takes him a little bit of time to get open just because the vertical hook bumps him a little bit. But if it's a last final read, you can always check that down and get 5 yards or so. Or we can even do it with the solo side wide receiver over here. We can motion him in. That'll allow us to get the hitch hot route, and he'll find a nice little sweet spot in the zone. Check down on him. Got 10, 11 yards that way. So yeah, if we're trying to hit him deep, we always want to have at least one nice check down option on the field. Things we can do on the left side, you know, that are more kind of quick hitters rather than a check down or a big play. Again, we can motion out that running back, give us that empty look and give us a few more options. We can put him on an out route and actually put him on that halfback out route before I motion him out, just because he gets that nice outside release to help him get that, to get him to the sideline a little bit quicker here. And then we're just going to be running Ohio to the boundary over here. And I've showed this, I think, last year. It's a really simple, really nice option. We're going to look at the technique of the cornerback. If he bumps the wide receiver, it means he's going to sync with him. He's in a cloud flat, and we can just hit the out route underneath for easy 5 yards. Just like this, and just like that. Now, if they're running hard flats here or soft squat where the cornerback's not going to engage the wide receiver, he's going to just be flat-footed and come down on the out route, we would think that the number 1 would be open here, but once he clears that cornerback, the safety's actually in a really good position to make a play because, again, this is run to the boundary, so there isn't as much space. But we can do a number of things. We can, you know, put this guy in a curl. And I've showed you in cover 3 and cover 4, this is a really good option with this halfback slot out and a curl from number 1. Really, it's going to be working against cover 2. It's going to be working against cover 3, cover 4 drop. It's a really nice, simple backside concept that you can put into any of these trips formations. So then if they're coming up in a hard flat here, you can throw that curl pretty easily. So just like this, he's going to be in a nice sweet spot, potentially turn that upfield. Or if you want to hit that upfield down the sideline, you can put that wide receiver on a comeback just so you can hug the sideline a little bit better. So then once he clears that corner, you can throw that with a forward pass lead, potentially juke that guy. Or another variation to this, and again, something very similar that I showed you in the previous videos, that we can wheel the running back, motion him out here. Again, we have this empty look, and so we're going to create a wheel curl concept. So if we're coming up against just stock cover 2, cloud flat, we can hit that wheel route in a nice sweet spot to get 10 yards up the field. You just have to throw it with an outside pass lead and just before he makes his cut up field. So I really wouldn't recommend just going into the game and using this. You do have to get the timing down, otherwise you might throw some picks. So really just right before he makes his break, we can toe tap that and get really easy 10 yards. And then again, we're just simply reading that cornerback. If he doesn't engage with the wide receiver, he's going to come down on the flat, and then we just hit the curl route above him for another 15 yards. Okay, so you got a number of deep shots, you got a few check down options, you got some nice backside options. What if you want to start working the middle of the field a little bit more? And you can do that with drag routes from a number of these wide receivers, and you're throwing that drag as soon as he leaves his defender that's engaging with him at the line. So we can go with the number 1 on the strong side over here. We can just go ahead and put him on an under route. So what's nice about this is that the vertical hook in the slot is going to bump and carry a little bit with the slot wide receiver, and you can just hit underneath with this drag route right here and catch that up the field for 7 yards or so. So where I like to do this type of stuff is, again, if you're looking at the middle linebacker here, he's dropping deep. Maybe the user defender is over here, and again, this is why I always stress to have the identified ability, because it really opens up what you want to do. So if the user's over here, you're gonna have a big window between these two guys to hit with your underneath routes. So again, I'll just go ahead and show that. Hit the drag right here, 5 yards plus an extra 5. Or if we don't want to do it with him, we can do it with the slot wide receiver as well. Just got to wait for him to disengage with the slot defender. And again, you're doing this really, really quickly. This is, after you've tried a few shot plays or so. This is something that's really just quick and unexpected of the user. Now, obviously, you know, because the user defenders move so quickly, you know, even if the user's over here, he can potentially, you know, shoot out and hit the, you know, and pick off that drag that you're trying to throw. But again, this is something you're going to throw in as an unexpected changeup. So just like this, hit him right in that nice pocket there, and another 10 yards. And of course, it's going to be a nice changeup over here on the backside when you're motioning in that running back. And this is good if your opponent is using this guy or potentially using this guy. You'll have an option coming in from the left as well. Or, you know, if the mic is leaving and you have a user here or potentially a user here, you can put drags on both of the slot guys and run the tight end right up the middle here. So if the mid read stays, you can hit the tight end right up the middle, you know, for that 20-30 yard gain. Or if he immediately bails, you're gonna have two nice options underneath. If the user is to the left, you're gonna hit to the right. If the user is to the right, you're gonna hit to the left. So right now we're saying he's to the right. We have the running back right here, and then again, we're just moving the chains. So a lot of options you have, but again, you know, we don't need to get too complex. We don't need to be too cute with it. If we're C cover 2 and if we don't absolutely need to run the ball, or sorry, if we don't absolutely need to pass the ball, we can just audible to our halfback dive, be a little bit patient with how our block's set up, and then we should get big chunks that way. Or, you know, just like I was saying with cover 3 and potentially cover 4, we do have the option just to run the slot bubble here, because the flat defender is going to be blocked by the wide receiver, and the slot defender who's unblocked isn't actually a flat defender, so he's going to come in a little bit more. We should be able to throw this, you know, around the cornerback there, throw this guy to the ground, get 15 yards or so. So yeah, in terms of what I do, like it's mostly halfback dive. It's mostly hitting that hole behind the cornerback and between him and the safety. If you're coming up against, you know, a real cover 2 aficionado, somebody that's really basing in it heavily and really stubborn and really making a lot of adjustments out of cover 2, that's when you're going to start to throw in more variations. You know, we're going to hit the tight end right up the middle, maybe check him down, maybe motion the halfback out. We can do a number of the backside concepts over there. We can maybe hit him with the RPO. So there's a lot of options that I want to give you guys, but most cases, if you see the cover 2, I would look towards hitting that, you know, behind the cornerback, or just running the ball simply. You know, cover 2, unless they're in that dollar blitz meta, you don't see it too often in Madden 20. Where I will see it is if you know I'm potentially beating their cover 3 or their man or whatever in the flats heavily. Some of them might audible to cover 2, but I'm always ready, right? I'm always ready for even just 1 or 2 cover 2s per game. Then I'm gonna potentially try to hit them with that shot down the sideline, or if I'm just, you know, grinding the game out, just hit them with the halfback dive and get those easy yards that way. Okay, I hope you guys like this, like these tips for this cover 2 and cover 3 and the cover 4 video I did. I don't know if I'll do any of the other coverage shells like cover 0 or whatever. I think I did a man coverage towards the beginning of this game. Otherwise, I'll probably go into the cover 2 blitz meta stuff with the soft squats and the heavy blitzing and the crazy zones everywhere. But I do need to play a little bit more Ultimate Team and get a little bit more experience with what guys are doing before I come to you guys with that. Okay, so that'll be it for this one, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one.